There you are, Henry.
That's right. That's right. Fantastic. Thanks. I know what happened. I was on my phone as well. And I think I can't remember
Okay.
quite why, but for some reason I'd put that on as well. Okay, great. Good to see everybody. Glad we got through the little technical glitch. Um, okay, let me just get. So I'm assuming that audio and video are okay right now.
You're great, Henry.
Okay, thank you very much. Phew. Um, okay. So here we are. This is actually the first talk I think I've given since the session we had in earlier December. The following week, which I guess was just last week, Scott Thornton gave a wonderful talk on Unmon and his Koan about medicine and the whole earth and disease and who are we anyway. A wonderful talk. And I've actually, I think I can announce this. Hope you don't mind, Scott. I sort of encouraged Scott, if he wanted to give sort of a part two, of the talk on the same koan, and he's agreed. So that's very exciting. And in 3 weeks, I think we'll have another talk from Scott on the same koan, going further into it, which I think is a very good thing. It's very nice to pick up a koan, address it, and then sort of see, well, wait, is there more? Is there more that I'm feeling coming up about it? And it seems that way. So that's great. I wanted to just begin by sort of letting you know a little bit where I'm at. I had the last 3 weeks have been a little bit hard on me neurologically. Some of you don't need to know a whole lot, but I've had an ongoing neurological issue as a result of what was a very mild concussion, but it's hasn't been so mild in the duration of its effect. And for some reason, these recent weeks, well, I know why. There were various factors that made these recent weeks rather hard, including a long drive and some other things. But I'm sort of back on track. But actually, today we've had a saga with our phones. We have our family has 4 phones that are all with a phone company that is merging with another giant phone company, and we've got to change our phones, but the information they give is extraordinarily complex and contradictory about how to do it. So we've had chunks of our life given over to this. I mean, it's bad enough to just have a phone and use it so much, but now to have to be sort of giving so much of our time to managing to stay on an active phone, and we're going to have to trade them in, and there are these different deals, and one company says if you do this deal, such and such will happen, and if you do this other deal, it won't. And then you go to the other company and say, oh no, you can't do that deal. We'll never accept you if you've done that. So anyway, it's been a real, I mean, the polite language for it is a mind fuck. It really has been extraordinary. And much of my time today, excuse my language, was on the phone, and then in the store, and then back on the phone, and then back in the store, and then finally finding that the one thing I'd managed to do yesterday, which took 3 hours to accomplish, was all wrong, and it's got to be undone, which requires sending things here and thither. And anyway, so just to let you know, the combination of my slightly sort of recovering but still slightly compromised neurology. That's a great excuse, by the way. I mean, actually, I say that recklessly, because a lot of people suffer very, very badly and from the kind of thing I've got rather mildly, although it could get worse. But I'm using it as a sort of all-purpose excuse for giving weak talks these days. Okay, so you've got to just please accept it. That the depleted brain function plus this ordeal by telephony, somehow please, I'm begging you to make some allowance for whatever I managed to sort of come up with tonight, whatever wants to come up basically through me tonight. I hope the channel is clear. But I'm pretty sure it's not. But we'll see. So okay, here's the thing tonight. I've been giving these talks from this classic great collection of koans called the Gateless Gate. And I think, the vast majority of you here tonight know approximately sort of what a koan is. I think there's probably, I don't know, there may be a few on who have never heard of the word before, but it's kind of unlikely. But I'm still I want to justify, make it what the traditional word was an apologia, a defense of koans. Why bother? If we say koans are usually tiny little dialogues or tiny little actions performed or uttered by enlightened practitioners, or whatever that means, usually 1200 years ago, sometimes 2400 years ago, doing and saying things that basically don't make sense. Why on earth should we bother with them? Okay, so I'm going to try to answer that question. I always feel that question has to be answered because there are very powerful, very effective spiritual traditions kind of operating in the same territory as deep Zen that don't do koans. They don't need them. They get by fine without them. They speak more directly, in a sense. They talk about, well, there's this level of consciousness, and there's this level of consciousness, and there's luminous consciousness, boundless consciousness, empty consciousness. I don't know, different ways of describing it. And this is one way it can be when you find this level, and this is how it can be when you find that level, and so on. And crazy Zen doesn't do that. It says, look at this little dialogue. And the little dialogue makes no damn sense. What am I supposed to do with this? Why should I even give a moment to this? And crazy Zen says, yes, yes, yes. Take this deep into your sitting. It assumes you sit. In other words, meditate regularly. It assumes you do that. And it says, when you do, bring this little nonsense into your sitting. Why? Because it just might do something. Something that you could not anticipate ever. Something that is unanticipatable. No matter if you think, I've seen that, I know boundless consciousness or something. If you're sitting with a koan, it will dissolve any knowing of any kind of anything and bring you into the here and now in a way that cannot be anticipated. It's impossible for it to be anticipated because you're really being brought into what has never been before. You're being brought to live, meaning to experience that which has never been before. Okay? Now, that's a radical claim and a radical statement, and it flies in the face of things we might think. Like, as kind of spiritual people, we might think, I got it. There's a level of stuff that's always been here. There's a there's a sort of thing I call consciousness that's always been here. And anytime I tap into that, anytime I sense that, it's the thing that's always been here. Well, kind of. That's one way you could put it, actually. But it's not a very good way to put it, because it suggests that we can know it and we can repeatedly, at will, sort of reconnect with it. And it's always the same. And that's a conceptual understanding of it. Because when we experience it, it is not something that has always been. It's something that has never been. That's why it's sometimes called the unborn, the not born. But Henry, hold on, what the hell are you talking about? Well, let me just take my foot off the pedal, back off, sort of let's coast a little bit. Let's just cruise. There's too much too soon, too much too fast, too deep, too weird, too soon. Okay, so I'm backing off. We'll come at this more carefully, slowly. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is read today's Koan. And before I do it, this is the 10th Koan, 10th little nugget of crazy wisdom in the Gateless Gate. Gateless Gate was compiled in 1228. It consists of Koans, little dialogues, that mostly come from about 400 years earlier, in the 9th century, 8th century, 7th century, 10th century, in China. Some from much earlier, in the time of Buddha, back in India in the 4th century BCE. So the first 9, Koan number 1, I skipped. Then I talked about the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th so far. And all of those have been, I was claiming that they all show how Zen doesn't teach with abstract stuff. It teaches with things, because things are, what it's trying to do is get us to experience this very moment and all the things of this moment, or any one thing in this moment, in the way that it actually is, without any kind of conceptual filtering and understanding put on top of it, so that we get to know this moment as the only thing there is, when we don't have a lot of sort of imaginary extra stuff. It's just this. And so the second koan is about a fox. The third koan is about a finger. The fourth is about a beard. The fifth is about a tree. The sixth is about a flower. The seventh is about washing bowls. The eighth is about a cart. The ninth is about a guy sitting in the zenda for a very long time. So that's sort of my claim. It's all solid stuff as the teaching. Not like, hey, you got to discover this, grandiose consciousness or something. None of that, just things. Then we get to this 10th one, and this 10th one is really different. And I thought I actually might just skip it. It's a little inconvenient for my sort of claim, my perspective, my theory on how Zen teaches that I'd been conveying. Well, this 10th one doesn't fit very well with what I've been saying. I'll just skip it, was kind of what I thought. And then I thought, nah, that's not quite right, Henry. I think you got to bite the bullet and accept and somehow see if you can fit this in, or acknowledge that your contention has a weakness in it and isn't quite right. So I don't know whether I have to give up on my contention about the things of the world teaching us. That's what Zen thinks. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe I'm not wrong, and here's just another way of coming at it. So you can make a call on that much better than I can, for sure. But this one is definitely different. And I'm just going to dive in and read it to you, and then I'm going to try to do my damnedest to justify, or at least to intrigue you with the possibilities of actually giving yourself to this strange little dialogue. Okay, it goes like this. And I got to tell you, man, it's not helped by the fact that the compiler of this book, Wu Men, in 1228, he actually changes their names halfway through to make it even more confusing. So I'm going to not change their names. I'm just going to keep it really as clear as I can. A monk, Seizei, eagerly asked Master Sozan. He asked him the following question. I am alone and poor. I beg you, Master, help me to become rich. Okay, so this monk, penniless monk in rags with a begging bowl, a deep Zen man, he comes up to this Master Sozan and he says, I'm alone, I'm poor. Master, help me to become rich. Well, actually, Sozan is also a monk. What has he got? You know, he might be a master, quote unquote, but he's still basically dressed in rags. You know, maybe he's got a nicer bowl, but that's all. You know. Sozan answers, Venerable Seizei, Honorable Seizei. That's his answer. Please help me become rich. Venerable friend. That's it. Okay, it doesn't end there, because Seizei then responds, yes, master. And then finally, Sozan caps it off by saying, you have already drunk 3 cups of fine Hakka wine, and you still say that you have not yet moistened your lips. And still you say that you have not moistened your lips. Okay, so that's the end of the koan. Now, okay, what the hell is this all about? Let me just go over it one more time. Seizei, the monk, meets this great master Sozan, says to him, I'm alone, I'm poor, help me become rich. Sozan responds by saying, venerable friend, or venerable Seizei. It's all he does. It's all he says. He doesn't say, you know, come in and, you know, recline on my, come and sit with me, or I'll get you some tea, or, you know, some wine, you know, I don't know. He just says, venerable friend, basically. Sozan responds, yes. And then, Seizei responds, yes. And then Sozan says, you've already drunk the finest wine, this Hakka wine. Apparently it was a particularly renowned, pricey, fine rice wine. You know, this is Tang Dynasty China, where the poets and the monks and the landscape painters, and they like to drink fine rice wine and get drunk and dance with the moon and stuff, like Li Po and these great figures who write poems, drink wine, meditate, sometimes all at the same time, you know. But he says, you've drunk 3 cups already of the finest wine, and you're saying you've yet to moisten your lips. And that's the end of the dialogue. So So. Where to begin? Well, the first weird thing about this is that to them, this is a deep and complete and fulfilling conversation. Okay? They aren't scratching their heads thinking, what are we talking about? We may be doing that, overhearing them. Thinking, what the hell is going on here? But they're not. So that's point one. Point two, I suppose, is that maybe this is a little harder to buy, but they have come down in the tradition as enlightened people. In other words, something has happened to them. They're experiencing the moment, now, here and now, as we all are. They're experiencing this moment, this, in a different way than most of us do. In such a way that this dialogue makes perfect sense. In fact, it's not a dialogue for them the way we would normally think of a dialogue. The way that they're experiencing things through their Zen training has resulted in them being able to experience this dialogue in a way that is sort of infinitely fulfilling and makes perfect sense. So the point of the Koan is to invite us to find for ourselves how they are experiencing it, which we can do because we're human, with human minds, human bodies, human hearts, just like them. In other words, the Koan, you could say, is an invitation to come to experience as these two practitioners did. Why might we want to? Well, if we have signed on for the spiritual quest, meaning for the possibility that our ordinary way of perceiving and experiencing is not the whole picture, that the normal way, the ordinary sort of inherited, acculturated, conditioned way that we experience any moment is only one way. It's really a rather narrow way of knowing this moment. If we agree that that's possible, if we have intimations by whatever means, they may have come to us, that there's more to our actual experience here and now. If I have a hunch somehow, intuition that the way I'm normally experiencing is not the complete picture. I don't know if there's a complete picture, but I know there's a wider picture. If whatever has happened somehow in our life has given us hints that might be so, and we're drawn to finding out, well, if that is indeed the case, and if so, how do I come to experience this wider perspective, this different perspective? If that's the case, why not go to sort of, if we could put it like this, practitioners who are sort of, what can I say, certified? No. Verified? No. Who have been shown, recognized maybe, no, sort of shown to have helped others come to break out of the narrow view. And here are two such examples. You see what I mean? Like they are, the way they're talking is a kind of hallmark, is a sort of shows that they have indeed broken out of the narrow view, because their dialogue makes perfect sense to them. But from the narrow view, it doesn't. Now, see what I mean? I'm trying to convey this as clearly as I can, and with a brain that's not 100%, see, I'm using that excuse, that's not 100% clear. Basically, from our ordinary perspective, it's just, what on earth is this about? But if we've signed on even a little bit for this notion that there is a spiritual quest to be made, in other words, there is a journey to be made by means of which we come to experience our life in a really different way that is much fuller, much ampler, much fuller of positive affect of various kinds, and also much fuller of freedom and a really different sense of things, whereby the most blessed thing happens, that we cease to be so separate from this very moment. We're just inseparable. If we're signing on for that kind of journey to this radically new way, then we could sort of get our heads around, just notionally, this idea that maybe this nonsense dialogue is not nonsense. It's speaking to us from a really different, bigger perspective. Maybe bigger isn't the right word. Maybe a perspective where space is not like I normally think it is, where time is not like I normally think it is. In other words, closer to what Henry was saying about never been before. What if they're living in a way that they've never, as they're here together, nothing has ever been before. I'm alone. I'm poor. Help me become rich. Okay, I'm now gonna, what's the time? Well, basically, I've got to, I gotta start explaining things, but my time is kind of up. Oh boy, what am I gonna do? Okay, let me just see if I can. What can I do? Hold on, just give me a sec to. Okay, I've done a couple of my points, but not very many, actually. Sort of done that. Can you give me 10 more minutes? Is that endurable, or is that just going to be too much? I mean, I think 1 thumbs up, 2, 3, 4. I think lots more. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. I think there's enough thumbs up that I better let me go. The thing is, I'd like to go fast so we can get through it nice and fast, and you can all go and have supper. But I don't think going fast is going to help, because I've got to sort of convey stuff. Let me see what I can do. I'm going to take off my watch and watch it carefully. Okay, here's the main point. I'll just tell you right off the bat. This dialogue is not actually, it's not straight. Okay? It's not straight talking. It's what they call a mondo, which means it's a Dharma debate. Now, this is a thing that has happened throughout the history of Buddhism, actually, in very different contexts. In the early days, in Shakyamuni Buddha's time, often other spiritual teachers would come and sort of take him on. You say this, what about that? And he would often he didn't really like to get into debates, but in a way that was a way of winning them. You'd be saying, well, I don't discuss that stuff. You're wrong to even bother with it. And then he's kind of unless they could have a really good response, he'd kind of prove himself wiser. So then you get really through the history of Buddhism, there is a thread of Dharma debate where people are kind of challenging one another's clarity. Here's a little description, a Tibetan way. Public debates were an important part of gelug training. Debates were lively affairs. One monk sitting cross-legged in the courtyard, while the opponent, rosary beads swinging from their arm, would stride back and forth, presenting a challenge, and then leap forward with a clap of their hands to signal the time for response. Tell me, what do you think? What do you make of this? Kind of thing. Well, Zen has equivalent kind of debate, but happening in a really different way. Here's how it's happening here. Now, so if you know that it's a sort of Dharma challenge, it makes a little difference. When Seizei says, I'm alone, or I'm solitary, what does he really mean? When he says, I'm poor, I have nothing, what does he really mean? I'm alone. I'm alone. And, it reminds me of, these so-called jhana states, the four formless jhanas, which are a deep part of Buddhist training from the early times. The fifth one is infinite space. The sixth one is infinite mind, infinite consciousness. If you think about infinite consciousness, if there's one consciousness spreading infinitely, it's one mind. It's one consciousness pervading everywhere. It's one. Therefore, alone. I'm alone. It's deep words here. Just that, I'm alone. Second, I'm poor, I have nothing. Seventh jhana, nothing at all. See what I mean? It seems like he's saying, I'm alone, I'm poor. I'm a lonely monk. No money. Can you help me become rich? That's not so simple, not so straight. I'm alone. I'm poor. I'm alone. Just one. I'm poor. Nothing at all. Totally empty. How do we become rich? Answer, venerable friend. May all be one, may all be empty, but venerable friend. I think to get this, you have to not really dwell on the meaning. If you can just hear without meaning, venerable friend. Venerable friend. What if there's nothing else? What if these guys have done enough training that it's ever present, ever just now, No before, no after. They can talk about it fine if you need to, no problem. But it's all part of this. And what is it? It's empty. What is it? It's all. What does it look like? Ha ha ha. This venerable friend. Just this. So, Seizei the monk answers, yes, master. He gets it. The master got it. He gets it. They're on the same page. They're on the same page. They're living the same now. They are meeting where there can be no meeting. They're sharing where back and forth sharing can't happen. This is one of the wonders of the Koan way. I'm sure other traditions have equivalents, but what Koans offer is a way of meeting when no meeting is possible. Meaning, number one, in the reality of awakening, where there is no meeting, all one, all empty. Yet, with Koans, in Koans, with Koans, we meet. Meet. It's incredible. We share, even though there's no sharing. Yet we share. This is two of them. Meeting, finding. See, they're actually, they themselves are doing what Koans do. Sort of checking. But checking's a weird word here. It's really about meeting. Same reality. It's not about pages. I use the phrase same page. It's misleading. I was kind of okay, but it's really misleading. Because it's, how can you do anything but meet, really? When there's, this is all there is. This. So, how fantastic. Meeting, sharing. Without meeting, without sharing. And then, finally, Sozan sums it up. Because the initial challenge or invitation was, help me be rich, you're drinking, what's the wine called? You're drinking, the Premier Cru Bordeaux. You're drinking the finest, what are they called? Pomerol, What is that? That's, I forget what that is. It's a, very fine French wine. You're drinking Pomerol, 1972 Pomerol, and yet you say you haven't moistened your lips. It's a beautiful last line. It's such a beautiful last line. You're living like a king. You're living like a queen. In the lap of luxury, in utter infinite abundance. And yet you're saying the wine hasn't touched your lips. I mean, that's so beautiful because, yes, that's a comment on him initially saying, I'm poor. But it's also a comment on, well, what has, in fact, touched your lips? In this great reality that our practice of Zen can open us up to, open us up, so it becomes clear. In that great reality, which is this, right here now, true enough, no wine is drunk, true enough. At the same time, it allows the wine to be freely shared. The wine of astonishment, as well as perfectly ordinary glass of wine. Look, I think I'm going to stop now. I've done exactly 10 minutes on the nose. I mean, of the extra 10 minutes. So I'm definitely going to stop here and now. probably having just confused, annoyed, I don't know, infuriated some of you, maybe think, get me out of here. Well, obviously you're free to go anytime, but what I hope is that I've just somehow given at least a bit of a sense that, I mean, really, I don't know if I have, that it's worth paying attention, that to these strange little nuggets. I mean, this is possibly a more sort of challenging one than some of the others that we've looked at. On that level, why should I give my time to this weird little dialogue 1,200 years ago? I don't know if I've done enough, actually, to be honest, to convince you that it's worth it. But so I might even come back to this, but I'm trying to. And I know I haven't been as clear as I'd have liked, but maybe a little bit has come through. Anyway, phew. Let's have if anybody wants to ask a question, I'll do my best. So if you'd like to. Probably not for very long because it's getting on. But let's see, if anybody would like to ask something, put it in the chat, or I'm looking in the chat right now. Oh, confused and astonished and sated. Knock it off, Henry. Love you, and thank you so much for showing up after such a day back with corporate bungling. Yes, thank you. Thank you. The channel is wide open. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so if anybody, that's very nice of you saying, sort of just riveting. Yeah, thank you. But anybody want to ask something? Raise a hand if you do, or put it in the chat. Thank you, I do appreciate nice comments. Didn't mean to be dismissive. Thank you. What's a good way to sit with this koan in meditation? Okay, good. Okay, so I would just sit with a phrase, just sit with a phrase from it. Like, I'm alone, I'm poor. That's what I would do. I would just sit with, so you're sitting, you got maybe you start with your breath practice, just add in a phrase. Sitting, alone, poor. I'm alone, I'm poor. Just like that. Don't try to understand it. Just hear those words in your mind. That's it. That's the best way. Now, wait. Deborah says, "Why the name change?" Do you mean in the original? Why does he change the names? Well, he doesn't exactly. What he does is, like the first monk is called Seizei, and the master is called Sozan. And then in the next line, he says, San said Venerable Zei. So he's just sort of abbreviated the names. And if you're just kind of struggling to get a handle on the original names, it just makes it that much harder, I think, if you just got to now get a handle on these changed versions of their names. So that's why I just stuck with the straight names. Now, wait, has anybody put a hand up? Let me see. No. Anybody want to put a hand up? Anybody want to? Okay, here's another one. In your book, you describe some koans as having a gesture or something as an indication that they've been received. Would the answer to this one be an explanation or a gesture? Oh, yeah, okay, no, right on. Yeah, what I think this is a question about like having when we're working with koans with a teacher, we're encouraged to have a presentation that we sort of show. We show the koan with our bodies. We do something. Now, that's not the case with every koan. And actually, this one, I'm just trying to remember. I think with this one, we might not expect that. We might, but we might also just say, look, to go through it line by line, and we probably might want some showing actually, but we definitely want to. What we're seeing is that has the boundary fallen down? The boundary between me and the whole world, has that fallen down? Because that's where this koan comes alive. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Either hand or... Okay, somebody, Damien. Okay. In sitting with the lonely poor part of the koan, after, do you incrementally build the story to completion or just pick up the next short phrase and put down the lonely poor? Okay, these are good questions. Everybody, good questions. Yeah, and I like the detail on how to do it. You know, usually a koan has they call it a watto, actually. It's like a core part of it. That's really sort of the heart of the koan. And so we would tend to sort of feel out where that is. And usually that is, this koan is a little different actually, but usually that's a certain point in the koan that really doesn't make sense, that is really kind of annoying to the rational mind. And so that usually the bit we least like is the bit that we have to sit with and that will do something to us that opens us up. This koan is a little different because it's kind of all the way through sort of thing. There's things to get. So, but I think in a way the key is probably that first one, alone and poor. I know I'd be interested to hear what Valerie thinks actually. If Valerie's on, if she'd like to jump in or something, she's probably got a much better take on it than me. But I don't know if Valerie's on right now. If you are, Valerie, feel free to... Oh, yeah, there you are, yeah. I don't know if you can... Can you unmute? Maybe I can do it. Because I'm a thingy. Let's see. Can I? Yeah, I can ask to unmute. There. Okay, thanks. I think you can now, yeah?
Yeah, I just, thank you. I actually love this koan, Henry, and alone for Mubon in his little commentary asks, just where does he drink those 3 cups of wine? So that would be it's not a discursive question. But to experience that utter satiation, that inexhaustible fact that you're conveying. Where in this koan does that shoot out, shut forth? Would be another one.
Yes. Very nice. I remember actually Ruben Roshi asked me, so he says he's drunk 3 cups of wine. Where are those 3 cups of wine? And so that's one way you can look at it. It is, that's lovely. Thank you. It's very beautiful. It is very beautiful when you sort of get it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And alas, until we get it, it's, what's it about? Take it or leave it. Waste of time. But when we get it, how beautiful it is. So it's a horrible thing to say because I'm doing the thing that I find so awful in our practice is like to suggest that there's something to get and you may not have it yet. I'm so sorry to do that. I'm so sorry to do that. I mean, I suppose it's okay if you sign on for this notion, like I put it, that there is a spiritual path, that there is a spiritual quest. If you accept that, then fair enough. And on the other hand, why do we always say, just letting go, just letting it be, let things be as they are? Can't I really do that, Henry? How can I let things be as they are, which I'd rather like to do, to learn to do that, if you're also telling me that there's something to get? Aren't those contradictory messages? Well, to be continued. There is a way of resolving that, I'm happy to say. But we'll have to find out about that as we go on further on this journey together. Journey into the Gateless Gate. I mean, the very title says it all. No gate. But there kind of is a gate. It's exactly saying the same thing. You don't need to get anything. You can't get anything. But you kind of have to get that. Very annoying. Right. Okay, is the gate made out of conditioning? Only to pass through after we've deleted our illusions. Yeah, but, sort of, but actually the illusions are just fine. That's the weird thing. Nothing that need be got rid of. Oh, this is so crazy and paradoxical. It makes no sense. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Okay, let's stop. Let's stop. Let's stop this nonsense that Henry's spewing. Great questions. Is this a good beginner koan? No, 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 no. Well, you never know. I don't know if there is a good beginner koan. I don't know. I mean, we always say moo, just do moo, because you can't think about it really. I like who am I? I like what is this? I think what is this? That's my favorite. Still, I think it's a beginner koan and an eternal koan. What is this? You can't beat it. So you may as well join it. That's what they used to say. There was a a beer in England, Double Diamond. I think it was Double Diamond. Said, "You can't beat 'em, so join 'em." And actually, that's what a koan is. You can't beat the koan, join it. Join it meaning become it. Okay, let's stop there. Thank you very much indeed. I hope this is a nice thing to do. I hope it's a nice thing to do in the holiday season. Just coming up on Christmas Eve tomorrow, Christmas Day the day after. I think I got that right. Then Boxing Day, as we call it in the UK, and then New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day, and holiday time. Darkest time of the year. Solstice 2 days ago. But really, when you're when you join Sozan and Seizei, when you join them, you can't really talk about holidays. In a way, you don't need to. Of course, you can if you like. But it's kind of a oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my. It's exactly the same, and it ain't the same. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Enjoy. Peace. Peace to everybody.